You hear the name Machiavelli, and what do you think of? For most of us, it brings up this image of a shadowy figure, right? Whispering ruthless advice into the ear of a king. I mean, his name has literally become part of our language, a shorthand for a certain kind of cold, calculating power. And yeah, the dictionary backs that up completely. To be Machiavellian means you're cunning, you're scheming, you're unscrupulous. It's basically the playbook for the dark arts of politics, the idea that the ends always justify the means, no matter how brutal. It's a pretty heavy legacy. But here's the question that's been bugging people for, about 500 years. Was Niccolo Machiavelli really a teacher of evil, a monster? Or was he something else entirely? A man who was desperately trying to save his country from total ruin. So, that's what we're going to do. We're going to decode the man and his infamous little book.
Because here's the thing. To understand the book, you first have to understand the man. And to get the man, you have to understand the world he lived in. And let me tell you, it was a world of pure chaos, violence, and collapse.
So, surprise number one. Machiavelli wasn't a king, he wasn't a warlord, he was a bureaucrat. For 14 years, he was a dedicated, high-ranking civil servant, a diplomat for the Florentine Republic. He was on the front lines, negotiating treaties, analyzing foreign powers. This wasn't some abstract theory for him. This was his day job. But just look at how fast it all fell apart. In 1512, his beloved republic gets overthrown. The powerful Medici family comes back into power. And because Machiavelli was a key guy in the old government, he's immediately a target. He's fired, arrested, brutally tortured, and then thrown into exile. And it's right there, 1 year later, stripped of everything, that he sits down and writes his masterpiece. And this was the world he was trying to fix. See, Renaissance Italy wasn't one country. It was this broken, fractured mess of warring city-states. It was constantly being torn apart by foreign armies, the French, the Spanish, who Machiavelli just called the barbarians. He looked around and saw his home as weak, divided, and just teetering on the edge of destruction. So, out of the ashes of his career, and in the middle of all this turmoil, he writes a book. But The Prince, it wasn't some philosophical daydream about a perfect world. Oh no, it was a pragmatic, cold-blooded, and honestly, a deeply shocking manual on how to get power and keep it in the real dirty world. Now, to get his advice, you have to understand this one key idea: virtue. When we hear virtue, we think of being good, right? Moral. Forget that. For Machiavelli, virtue is all about skill, audacity, and the raw ability of a leader to bend fortune to their will. It's about being effective, not about being nice.
He argued that a great ruler has to be two animals at once. You can't just be a lion, all brute force, because lions are kind of clumsy. They walk right into traps. You also have to be a fox, cunning, sneaky, deceptive, so you can spot the traps your enemies are setting. Strength alone just isn't going to cut it.
And he puts it right there in the book, plain as day. It's this combination of force and, well, fraud that makes the perfect ruler. Someone who can scare the daylights out of you, but also outsmarts you at every turn. And this brings us to the most shocking idea of all. Machiavelli says a leader's number one job is the survival of the state. Period. And to do that, a prince has to be ready to do things that are, well, evil. He has to be willing to lie, to break promises, to be cruel. He has to learn how not to be good, if that's what it takes to keep the nation safe.
For hundreds of years, people argued about this. Is this just theory? Could anyone actually rule this way? Well, what if I told you one of the greatest power players in all of history not only studied this book, but left notes in it, creating this incredible, chilling conversation with Machiavelli himself? Because that's exactly what happened. Napoleon Bonaparte, the Emperor of France, had his own personal copy of The Prince, and as he read it, he scribbles his thoughts right there in the margins. It gives us this absolutely terrifying window into how a real-world conqueror thought about these lessons.
So get this. Machiavelli gives this piece of advice on cruelty. He basically says, if you have to hurt someone, you make it so devastating that they can never, ever get revenge. It's a call for absolute crushing force. So what does Napoleon write next to this? Does he argue? Does he have a moral debate? Nope. He just writes, the precept is excellent. He doesn't see it as evil. For him, it's just a practical, smart rule of power. This is just how the game is played.
Same thing happens with his most famous idea, that what really matters is the result. How you get there, the promises you break, the morality of it all, that's secondary. If you win, people will say you did the right thing.
Napoleon's take is even more blunt. Triumph always, no matter how, and you will always be in the right. Wow, that's the heart of it, isn't it? Victory is its own justification. It's like they're having a conversation across the centuries, the theorist and the tyrant.
So, where does all this leave us? We've got the shocking advice from the book, and we have this enthusiastic thumbs up from one of history's greatest dictators. It brings us right back to our big question.
Was this really his goal all along? To write a timeless handbook for any tyrant anywhere in the world who wanted to grab power and never let go? A kind of evil Bible for politics?
Or was this book not meant for everyone? Was it a desperate plan for a very specific time, a very specific place, and maybe, just maybe, a noble purpose?
I mean, these are the two great ways people see him. Was he the teacher of tyrants, the guy who gave evil a playbook, or was he the father of Italian unity, a patriot who looked at his broken country and said, the only way to save us is with a leader tough enough to do these terrible things?
And you know, the best evidence for the patriot argument comes from the very end of the book itself. The last chapter isn't some cold, calculating analysis. It's a fiery, passionate call to arms. It's called an exhortation to liberate Italy from the barbarians. He is literally begging for a new leader to rise up, use these tough methods, and save his country.
And that changes everything, doesn't it? It suggests the ruthlessness wasn't the goal. It was a desperate tool for a patriotic mission, which leaves us with a final, really unsettling question for our own world. When we're faced with hard choices and real threats, are these dark lessons in power terrifying, necessary, or maybe, tragically, both?